Oh, another video when I said I wasn't going to put out anymore unless something major happened, and something major happened. Um, and things are still happening. I just won't delay it. I'll get straight to the major thing. And you don't have to believe it. Totally fine. It sounds totally arrogant, and that's fine. It is what it is. And it's probably what everybody seems to try to do at the moment. But this is in regards to the event with Trump and his ear and what happened for that attempt there. Yeah. I've mentioned on my presentations with different people and what it's like, especially my very first presentation with Sheila Seppi. My very first presentation talked about what it's like, that reality only exists within these, what I can see in these four walls, four corners of my reality, and beyond that is a gray mist where possibilities can change. When my wife told me this news that a certain thing happened, it was like probably time stops, just like it does for everybody when you hear about a big moment, like the Challenger explosion or 9/11 or something like that. Time seems to stop. Well, for me, this has happened many times before. It's like time stops, but within those moments, you can do things. You can move within 2 moments of time. What happened with me is that mist from outside came right in front of me, was like clouds moving, clouds of possibilities, and it was moving between possibilities to select an outcome and let that expand around you into existence and become your new reality. That's what happened, and then it happened. It's happened before. I've mentioned about in videos and on presentations and interviews where, for example, changing things that are written in stone and then altering reality to change stuff that's been reported. For example, in high school, news came on that a plane had crashed and everyone died. Reaching out, changing reality, and then a few minutes later, the news reporters come on and say, oops, that was a reporting error. Nobody actually died in a plane crash. So it was something happened a long time ago, and they accidentally reported on it. Coincidence, you think. Tried it again years later, exact same thing with an airplane crash, the exact same thing happened. No, it was an error in reporting. Nobody actually died in a plane crash. There wasn't a plane crash. Okay. And then again, with my wife's brother dying and switching reality and words on text change, well, the same thing happened with this particular event. Reality shifted into what happened. So I'm not going to go further into that because that seems like total arrogance and blah, 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 blah. And okay, let's just not go into that, but that was a major thing. The other big thing that's happening, and the reason I'm doing a video when I don't really want to do videos, is the book I'm reading currently. This is the book I'm currently reading, The Pistis Sophia by Desiree and J.J. Hurtak. It's big. I watched a video on it the other day from Esoterica, a YouTube site, Esoterica, and it really confused them, says it was so detailed they couldn't understand it. Well, for me, it's not that I don't understand it, it's that I've lived it. I've experienced it. I have memories from before I was born, and those memories are specifically talked about in this book. Those memories I forced myself to remember as a child, memories from before I was born. And it even talks about in this book, if you can remember the memories from before you were born, things happen like that have happened to me in different things. And it's real. It's very real. Now, the first time I got introduced to all this wasn't too long ago by this book, The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hurtak. Okay, started off the Book of Enoch. I had done videos on pink sticky tabs, how this entire book related to things that happened through my life, experiences that have happened. Each one of these was an experience that happened in my life, and it's all detailed in this book. And I couldn't explain it. It's like, what is going on? And it freaked me out. It completely freaked me out. And finally, I was able to put a video out referencing specific pages and exact paragraphs where this was found and related it back to a video where I previously talked about it. Because I hadn't been exposed to this. I had no opportunities to be exposed to this. So I don't know how it's all really happening. I even have a video out there where it's like I got some weird message in my head saying, the answer you seek is in one of your books. And I had no clue what I was talking about. I got rid of most of all my books a long time ago, and then I finally pulled one off that I had kept, and it flipped open by itself to someone named Sophia. That video is out there. And it just opened up by itself. I'm like, what? Because even on the very first video when I put it out here, in the descriptions of why I'm putting videos out here, it's like I'm trying to understand, and the thing I'm seeking most, and that I wish to will into existence, is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. That's the one thing that I've always seeked out. And here in this book, it's all about that. Let me open to a specific thing, and I can't tell you everything that's happened to me since beginning to read this book, because it is overwhelming. It is way overwhelming. Let's see. The funny thing is, the interesting thing is, I'm on, from this book, page 761. Page 761. There's a thing in here that says, to bridge the duality back into the Trinity, the Kabbalists refer to wisdom as the beginning. And I'm thinking back to the very first Strange Happening video I put out here, SH1, SH number 1, the very first video I did out here, about my memories from before I was born. They're in this book. Those exact memories are in this book. I might go into a little more detail later. But I'm like, okay, well, I want this. This is my last video to put out right toward the end. I don't want to put out any more videos, but here it is talking about the beginning. Back to the beginning is wisdom. And understanding as the end. I'm like, here at the end of the videos, I'm just discovering all this and beginning to understand some of this. Then it talks about the higher knowledge, trying to balance the two. And I'm like, you mean like everything in between them, between the beginning and the end here? Everything that's gone in everything that's happened to me? You're talking about all these experiences on video, a lot of them as they're happening, and then they're written in here, the experiences. Wow. The funny thing while reading this book, the weird thing is, you want weird? I seem to only be able to read it while in the bathtub. We have a walk-in bathtub because we're getting older. I'm 60 now. We'll be 61 here in a few months, a couple of months, whatever it is, end of October. So thinking for the future, if something happens to us, it'd be nice to have a way to get clean without having to stand up, and be able to get into a tub, that kind of thing. Well, for me, I seem to be only able to read this underwater. So that walk-in tub, I'm able to get everything in water, except my head and my hands holding this book, reading it. So I'm in there like 2 hours at a time reading it. Every time tears running down my face because I'm understanding everything, because it's like reading about home. It's my memories from before I was born. It's everything. And I understand it. I may not grasp it from an intellect point like a lot of people try to do, or relate certain numbers to atomic particles, anything like that. That level of intellect with science, pretty much the only thing I can relate to science is recently I watched a physics guy, Eric Weinstein. Apparently he's a big physicist, and he was trying to talk about UFOs, and the only way they can actually work is to get out of this one-dimensional time and see space from every point all at once to be able to move the way they move. And finally, more recently, I saw a second one, and he's mentioning about gravity, and it seems like gravity is the key to everything, and that working with gravity, if you try to harmonize with it, you may be able to get out of this one-dimensional time structure. But nobody seems to be working on that. And this is from a well-known physicist, very intelligent guy. And I'm like, oh yeah. Because I actually have a slide in my very first presentation I ever did, one PowerPoint slide that talks about this. And I'm talking about gravity and the underlying waveform being the solution to quantum entanglement, quantum gravity, being able to go from one point to another. And I mentioned about UFOs and how it's linked with consciousness, harmonizing with gravity. Consciousness harmonizing with gravity is being almost part of it, but you've got to harmonize with it to do this. And then this physicist is talking about the exact same thing recently. Probably, it might have been a year ago, but I just saw the video. I'm like, that is so funny. Anyway, off track. Other thing, when I started reading this book in the bathtub, I have my music with me, playing on Pandora. The music synced with sections of the book I was reading. I mentioned in other videos how songs on the radio seem to come in as I'm thinking of certain things. Same thing happened when reading this book. The very same things. What the section I'm reading, all of a sudden this music comes on the radio, and the title or something is relating exactly to what I'm reading at the time. It relates to it somehow. Very odd, very funny, interesting. But that's normal. So I just smile at it and just go with it, because that's happened all my life. So I just go with that part of it. So I think, oh, that's good, that's good. The other interesting thing about reading this book is, as it's going on, certain sections of the book I'm disagreeing with when I read it. I'm like, no, that's not right. It's this other way of thinking about it. No, I disagree with what I'm reading. And then a few paragraphs later or pages later, it comes back around and says, that is not the correct way to see this and read this. It needs to be read this way. And I'm like, yes! So I'm realizing what it's trying to say before it says it in the book. It's like, yes, no, this is incorrect. This is not the way you think about it. And then later it comes back around and says, this is the correct way to think about it, not this. That's what I mean by understanding it. It's like, I remember it, I understand it, and I'm disagreeing in parts of the book where you're supposed to disagree with certain parts. And it's this other way of seeing it. And then the book says, yes, it is this other way of seeing it. I'm like, whoa. So, yeah, freaking out on that a little bit. So that in my head, this is major. Another part that I've mentioned before is, I've mentioned many times that my mission is different. I'm not a healer or a teacher. I don't learn things from a guru or from theological universities. I don't learn that way. I've learned through experiences on everything. The interesting thing here, it says the same exact thing in this book. The only real way to learn and understand this is through experiences. Specifically mentions in here, it's not through theological means, through universities or studies or gurus. It's not through those means. It's through experiences. There's an entire page here on 713. I don't know if you can see this, but you see all these little things here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, this is 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 80 lines. Every one of these 80 lines of how you learn, how you experience things, what you're supposed to experience is through all of this kind of stuff. Every one of these lines begin with experience. All 80 begins with the word experience. You have to experience this to really understand it. I'm like, whoa. And I've experienced a lot of this. A lot. So it kind of blows my mind when doing things like that. This entire book has been like that. The entire book. Anything else? I only marked the most recent, some of what I've read today. I have about 100 pages left in the book, and then I'm done. I'm currently on book 4. Read about 100 pages. Only a very few will have attained their high memory from birth, will remember. This is page 763. It talks about different types of people being born with their souls, and says only very few will have retained their higher memory from birth, will remember some from birth. Strange Happening number 1 video right there. Thing about that, it is in this book. It really is. I believe they call it the Treasury of Light. I remember it. I remember being in an area of all white. I've talked about this with Karin Swain. I've talked about it in my Strange Happening number 1, what it was like. Even in my book, at the prologue, that being, and it was like an identity of self coming in and becoming aware of self. What is I? There's something like I. I'm an individual. I'm separate from other things. Instead of blindly working within a group to do things. It's like a robot working. A robot without an idea of self, without an awareness of self. And I've mentioned that in my book, in my prologue, and everything else, and it's mentioned specifically in here, almost like the fall with Adam and Eve eating from the tree of good and evil kind of thing. And the whole deal with that is becoming aware of self, becoming self-willed in this world, self-willed. They made a choice. The difference with me is I didn't make a choice. This was new, a brand new soul coming into existence. I've mentioned that whenever I talk about this, every time. Strange Happening number 1, in my interview with it, in my book, about this self-awareness coming in. out of nowhere and becoming a brand new soul. It talks about 4 different types of soul here that are on the planet. The number 4, fourth type it talks about in here is what I've talked about. It's a brand new soul being created, and then coming here. You know, they talk about the fall, and I mentioned in my Strange Memory 1, it's like being sucked down into a vortex, a tunnel, a spiral of energies or whatever, a spiral, a vortex coming down here. That exactly thing is mentioned in this book, the spiraling energy, the vortex of energy, and going through that to get here. Exactly mentioned in this book. Not only that, but the part I never really understood in my Strange Happening number 1, I talked about the memories from before I was born, the blank pages, after all ends here, the blank pages, and there's a huge section of the book with these glowing light beings. Strange Happening number 1 is specifically mentioned, even there, that I didn't know about progress or anything else. So it's almost like there was no progress. They were moving, they were doing things still. So it wasn't stasis because they were doing things and moving, but there was no progression. They weren't progressing, learning more, doing anything. That is specifically mentioned in this book. They call it a semi-stasis. That is in this book. That's my memories from 2 and 4 years old, somewhere around there, very young tot. Forcing myself to remember walking down the boulevard of the haunted house where we lived next to the asylum. Way back when, the memories from when I was a little kid. Now forcing myself to remember. It's exactly in the Pistis Sophia. What this whole book is after Jesus is resurrected, comes back, and is giving a lot more details to Mary and the disciples kind of thing. So it's a lot more information, detailed information. So yeah, I know this video's been pretty long. I told you I wouldn't put out any more videos unless it was something dramatic. Well, there's been a couple of dramatic things. The first one I mentioned about changing reality kind of thing, then it happens. Same thing in the way I got my jobs. Both of my main jobs. Subcontract to the EPA, job out of nowhere. Bam. In my book, I talk about how I got my second job at Bell Helicopter on the dance floor at that first job's party, Christmas party, dancing with my now wife, future wife at the time. And then letting the music and new realities flow and open up around me to have this job opportunity appear. And it appeared right then on the dance floor. That really happened. I mean, just like that. And then all these coincidences working. Alternate reality. And happened again. Anyway, back to the book. Yeah, so I've got 100 pages left. It talks about my memories from just before I was born, and not just the memories from before I was born. It talks about my walk-in experience as well. Things I remember from that. Specific things. Things I don't wholly like to talk about is this feeling of wings. Mentioned in my videos. Wouldn't wholly talk about it. I mentioned it more in the book than anything. But it is mentioned here also as part of the High Command or whatever. And I mentioned it's like 3 entities here in one space. There's the memories from before I was born, this soul in this body, physical body of duality. Then this walking experience of something else. And they all are together. And I think it's my Strange Happening number 53, somewhere around there. Before I really figured out I wasn't alone. And talking to my mother, and she thinks that I mentioned this walk-in experience to her. She thought it might have been my uncle coming into me or something. I'm like, no. It's just a different version of myself, a higher version of myself. It's all me. It's still me, these different versions of me coming in. That is mentioned in this book as well. So, yeah. Yeah, there's still things happening. There's still more things happening. Wow. Things I'm connecting to that I haven't put out here on video. Since the last video, things I'm connecting to, and now I'm reading them in this book. So more recent things within 2 months since the last video that I've been connecting to and things that are happening are also listed in this book. And I'm not even going into them because I've never talked about them before. I haven't put them in videos before. So I'm not even going to go there because I can't prove anything. Now, in the videos, I do prove some things, like the precognition before the building fell. At least I'm putting videos out on that. Or feeling the astral friend coming through the house after he died. And, you know, I felt him die, put that on video, proved it. Astral entity coming through, turned around, proved that, and then finding out that he died exactly the way I described in the videos previously. So I was able, through some of the videos, prove exactly things. Also, show you when I discovered the word starseed, discovered when I wasn't alone, that all this stuff started becoming real. And up to this point, I mean, the first 50, I think it was 53, somewhere around there, but those first 50-something videos, I think I'm still alone in the universe, and this voice is just telling me it's time. Put videos out of your experiences. Do it now. So I did. Whew. Kind of mentions that in the book too here. Kind of like sharing, trying to share things, help others in some way. Just recently, well, I just got out of the bathtub a little while ago. In the section I just read also, it talks about different things like that, and how a lot of people try to use these different weird talents and understandings and gifts to make money. I know that's going to piss off a lot of people probably. They use it to make money. And even, I like the Wild Files. I watch the Wild Files sometimes. They're fun. Love Hecklefish. Lizard people. I love Hecklefish and the Wild Files. But even there, a lot of times they'll say, oh, it's just somebody, they wrote a book. Of course, everybody writes a book. And he's looking at it from the standpoint of trying to make money. When I wrote my book, it wasn't to make money. It was on another impression to write a book. I wrote it in a month, edited it for the next month, finished the cover, did everything else the following month. So from beginning to end, 3 months, from start to out there and published and available on Amazon. Then I bought a bunch of copies myself and handed them out for free, bought them to local libraries for free, just gave them away for free to anybody that wanted them, or anybody that could find it, take them. And then I read them out loud, and they're on this video site here. The entire book is. It's all for free. So the entire book is me reading it here on video. I have a link on the main page to the book page, so it's broken down in shorter segments, chapter by chapter, so you don't have to spend 2 hours listening to there are 5 parts to it, so you don't have to spend 2 hours listening to part 1 or 2 hours listening to part 2. You can do it in smaller segments by each chapter. And it's free. So I'm not trying to make money. And that's a big difference. It's never been about money. And I mentioned that from probably my early on videos. It's not about money. It's never been about money. This is about sharing, and for those people who may feel lost like I did, lost in the dark, now there's somebody else out there too that's gone through this kind of stuff. And it's real. And that's mentioned in this book as well. You have to there is so much in here that I can't even go into, being lost in the dark. And at one point I mentioned it felt like being held on my chains, and I didn't just sit there and not learn. I learned by being there, watching, learning. I mentioned in another section about names. It's like these kind of names are different. It's not just a name like your parents give you. These names is everything that you are. It's all that you are. These types of names, certain names, that exact thing with names is mentioned in this book. The exact same thing. Names. I mean, from a movie standpoint, names have power, whatever. But, I mean, yeah, but it's not like a power to control, I guess. Control is bad, but it's an understanding kind of thing for me. But they say the exact same things that I did in videos before I knew about all this kind of stuff. So I said the exact same thing. Certain names are different. These kind of names for these entities are different. I can't even go into, it's too much to get into, but God, I'm over 24 minutes. Sorry about that. Sorry the video is so long. There is so much to it. I'm grateful to have been reading this book, and this one, the first one I read with all pink sticky tabs, talked about my life here in this two-dimensional being and everything I've experienced as it. This particular book is talking about memories from outside this body. memories from before I was born, memories of before when I walked in, this walking experience. All this that's out there, the near-death experience that I saw. When I talk about in video number 70 in Starseed, I've quickly mentioned somewhere in the middle about what it was like. This was beyond love, perfect joy beyond a perfect joy. It talks about that in here as well. That exact same thing. Whew. Okay, I'm stopping. It's 25 minutes, and so if something else major happens, I'll put it out on video. This was a couple of major things that happened. That event, and then what's happening in this book relating to it so much. And we'll see what happens next.